Look at her. So much potential, with nowhere to go. Seeds aplenty with nowhere to grow. Admonitions abound to reap what we sow, but where to begin if we haven't a hoe? The land is limitless, opportunities are infinite, but that almost makes it harder. Straight A report cards didn't breed a self-starter. Watch her thrive in a container, given rules and an explainer, but set her free and she falls in a room with no wall. She's putty, lost her form, lack of structure is not her norm, but it's not her fault. That's what she's been taught, and self-motivation can't be bought. So she's left distraught and frustrated, every day a bit more jaded, talents already faded from lack of use, creative juice evaporated. Because what good is the skill if she hasn't the will or the way? Because at the end of the day, she needs a direction, but stays put in the name of protection, convinced her own resurrection will magically find her, but the North Star may blind her, so she chooses not to mind her own thoughts that she's got talent because she doesn't use it, and there's no path to greatness if she doesn't choose it. It's not that her potential's got nowhere to go, but without proper nourishment, the seeds simply can't grow. I wrote that poem when I was feeling like I have talent and I have skills and I have ideas, but I just don't know what to do with them, or I know what I could do with them, but I don't do it. And then you get frustrated and you watch your life pass you by thinking I could do so much more than that. So I wanted to record a video today to talk about 2 key strategies to alleviate that anxiety and feel a sense of purpose, because I no longer feel, for the most part, the way I did when I wrote that poem. There are ways to tap into our potential and feel useful for the world. Some days I still feel like a big old waste of space, but most of the time I feel more aligned with my purpose, and I wanted to talk about that in today's video. So make sure you stick around to the end, where I'll share the 2 big key shifts to make. My name is Trisha Feldman. I am founder of Powerful and Poised, and I am a confidence coach and spoken word poet. That poem that I just shared can be found in my book, which is available on Amazon. It is called Create and Receive, Make and Believe, Finding Peace Through Primarily Positive Poetry, and I published that under the pen name Patty the Poetess. So check that out. So we live in a time where, even though there is so much to do all the time and entertainment literally at our fingertips, so many people feel bored or unfulfilled. And I was listening to an Oprah podcast last night, which I'll talk more about, but that kind of inspired this episode, and it reminded me of that poem that I wrote a few years ago and how grateful I am to not necessarily feel that way anymore. So I was reflecting on this, and really we live in a time where people are bored, and I think part of that is because we live in a time where we're over-consuming. There's so much information everywhere we go. On our phone, we can consume material and content so quickly, faster than our brains can probably even process. And the problem with that is that when we consume something, we're not necessarily going to use that to create something. And it can feel rather unfulfilling if you're consuming content that then doesn't lead anywhere. So for example, if you're scrolling through Instagram watching funny videos, they may capture your attention, they may feel entertaining, but what are you going to do with that? Or if you're reading an article about celebrity gossip, what are you going to do with that? You're going to go talk about these celebrities. You're learning something maybe, but you're not learning something that you'll then go use, and then you can channel into something that will feel fulfilling and meaningful for your life. Now, the beauty of all of this content is that we can learn all the time. And I'm a big nerd. I love learning, and it's so good for our brains. But I find that if I go through a period where I'm constantly listening to podcasts and reading books and consuming, but I'm not stopping to actually digest and process and use what I've learned, then I feel significantly less fulfilled than if I'm in a creation phase, which is where maybe I consume a little bit to inspire me, but then I spend most of my time actually creating as opposed to taking in other people's information. And I think the sweet spot is where we consume things and we learn things that we can then turn around and create something from. So, for example, last night I listened to this Oprah podcast. I'm using some of what I heard on there to inspire today's episode, and now I'm creating something of my own inspired by that. Or we read a self-help book and that inspires us to go do something, or we're in school and you're reading about a subject and then you use that to go help your patients if you're a doctor, or to help your clients if you're a lawyer or whatever. You're using the information to then go help people. And I do think there still is room for learning, even if you don't ever ultimately use that information, because learning itself and the act of processing information is very good for our brains. So sometimes when I'm practicing Spanish or Italian, sometimes I'm like, this is not productive. What is the point of this? I've been watching a lot of Italian movies lately just because I want to sharpen my Italian, and I'm like, it's not terribly useful around here where I live, but I know that it's very good for my brain, and so I'm making that a priority right now. Does it mean I'll go ever be an Italian translator? Probably not, but that's okay. So this is not to say that everything we learn or everything we consume has to have a purpose. There's a lot of benefit just to learning for learning's sake. And I think it's very important that, one, we're cautious about what we consume. And if you're interested in that, I actually did a whole video about creating over-consuming, which I'll link here. You might want to check that one out. But be cautious about what we consume and make sure to prioritize the creative act, because creation is going to give us the feeling that we're using our potential and we're closer to our purpose. More on that in just a minute. So we are actually wired as humans to create. We are creative beings. And if you think about it, we're actually creating all the time. So I did a video about using your worries as your superpower, and that one is called How to Stop Worrying and Start Creating, because I realized that every worry we have is a story. Right? We're afraid of what's going to happen, or we're ruminating on the past. We're essentially telling ourselves a story. And that is creative energy. We're writing a story of what might happen, even if it maybe never does. And we think in some way we're solving a problem, but we're not actually solving a problem if we're just envisioning a scenario. We're actually crafting a story. And so I posit in that video that we can turn that creative energy that would be used as a worry and allocate that in a healthier way by actually creating something, creating art, writing a story for yourself just for fun instead of ruminating on some story. Or if you don't consider yourself a traditional creative person and you feel limited by that word and you say, I'm not creative, cook or build something or clean your house, but doing something where you're transforming one thing into another, that is an act of creation. Everybody is creative by nature, whether it's in the traditional artist sense or not. And when you channel that creative energy more effectively, we're not sitting here ruminating on, oh my gosh, I have so many ideas and I don't do anything with them. You're actually starting to do something with them that will help you feel like you're more productive and doing something that feels good and actually, again, creates something. It creates something from nothing, and that feels so much better than sitting and scrolling and consuming and not doing anything with it, and then feeling this sense of emptiness, this sense of boredom, this sense of unfulfillment. Now, sometimes when I know personally when I start creating something, I'm writing a poem or write a short story, I'm like, this is so pointless because it's not productive, because what am I going to do with it? And if that's your problem, I encourage you to check out my video on how to overcome the why bother block and unleash your creativity, because the act of being creative is a survival skill. It is productive, even if you don't ultimately do anything with the end product. So check out that video if you want more on that. But the point of me sharing that right now is to say, you can take this worry energy, which is kind of negative, turn it into something positive by creating without worrying about the outcome, without saying, well, like, if this isn't going to be a book, what's the point of me writing a story? Do it for creation's sake, because that actually alchemizes emotion in your body and it gets things moving and it will feel good in the moment. And if you don't believe any of that, trust that it will at least feel better than mindlessly scrolling or consuming something that is going to leave you feeling empty. Consuming doesn't always leave us feeling empty. If you watch a really good movie, for example, that's great. But I encourage you to, the next time you're feeling bored or anxious, to try engaging in some creative act, whether that's fixing the plumbing at your house or painting your nails or doing something small that gets you using your hands and your mind and your body in a different way than simply taking in information, and write down how you feel after doing that compared to how you'd feel after doom scrolling or sitting in your anxiety. I've heard it said that the remedy for anxiety is action. Take action. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling bored, do something to get out of this. And I know this to be so true. Yesterday, I was in this anxious state because I had too much free time. And I had planned to record a video, but my mind just felt so scattered that I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I could go to the gym, but I didn't go to the gym. I ended up going to the grocery store, and I was like, this is just a stupid use of my time, except that I needed to go to the grocery store, so it was fine. But today, even though I have a lot of free time, I'm not feeling that anxiety because I had a list of things to do, like record this video. And I know after recording this video, I'm going to feel really good, much better than I did yesterday when I was spiraling in my boredom. And that's when that voice that says, you have so much potential, why aren't you using it? You're just a waste of space, comes into play. So if that voice creeps in for you, do something. And it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be something, again, that's contributing to a long-term project. Just do something in the moment that feels good. As a tip, if you have a long-term project or a long-term goal that you're working towards and you start feeling that anxious energy, take one small step towards that. So for me, for example, building my YouTube channel is a long-term goal that I have. And so every time I sit and record a video, it's chipping away at that goal, and it feels good for me to do in the moment. And long-term, it will lead to something very fulfilling and very meaningful in my life. So you can, I'm not saying to put pressure on yourself, and because I think what we often do wrong, or what overwhelms me, is I have so many ideas for so many different things, and then I take on these big projects and then I never finish them. And so then I feel unfulfilled because I'm like, oh my gosh, I start things and I don't finish them. Like, I have so many books started. I'm like, I'm going to do a newsletter every week and I've done a few, or I'm going to start a Substack and I have to do a few, and so you've got to pick one or two things that you can stick with, but don't look at it as this giant thing that has to happen all in one day. So if you say, I'm going to write this book, give yourself a period of time that you're going to dedicate to that. And then when the anxiety strikes, chip away at it, or have a plan to chip away at it, but small steps at a time. I also did a video about that, about how small steps can leave a big impact, if you want to check that one out as well. So I want to go back to the Oprah podcast that I mentioned. She was interviewing an author named Arthur Brooks, who is a happiness professor at Harvard. And he was talking about how one of the reasons people these days just are generally unhappy is this feeling of a lack of purpose. Feeling like my life doesn't mean anything. I have pleasures, I have accomplishments, but I don't have that deep sense of purpose. And he suggests that one of the most important thing for purpose is human connection and your relationships. So the two big strategies I wanted to share for connecting with your sense of purpose. I almost said sense of humor, but that can be a good thing to connect with as well. But two strategies or two big keys to establishing that sense of purpose. One, according to Arthur Brooks, is connect with other people. Focus on your relationships, but not just focus on your relationships. You actually want to be of service. So when you're feeling that anxiety, call a friend, but don't just call a friend. See how you can help your friend. See how you can be of service to your friend, whether that's listening to their problem or helping them fix something around their house or helping them talk through something, whatever it is. Try to think of ways that you can serve others. And you can also do this by volunteering. Use your time to serve others so that you feel that meaningful sense of purpose. Think about a time where you helped someone. Maybe you were just taking a walk and someone was lost and you gave them directions, and it feels good. And we get that little surge of like, oh, I did something meaningful today. I know for me, those little moments mean so much. And every person I talk to says at some point, like, I know my purpose is to help people. And I think we're all put on this earth to help people in some capacity with our creative gifts, with our empathy, with our intellect, with whatever it is. Our purpose comes down to how we can be of service. And sometimes that does feel overwhelming. So I encourage you again to find little ways that you can work this into your life, whether that's calling someone you know or volunteering at some organization or some event, or going to the grocery store and like carrying an old lady's bags for her or something. I don't know, do something that will make you feel good. So that's step one. If you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm a waste of space, I'm useless, what can I do? Be of service. The other thing is what I've been talking about most of the time, which is create something. Because I actually believe that creating art and using your gifts and your creative talents is an act of service. And we may not always have someone that we can reach out to right away, or they may not need our help, you know? And so if you want to think about how you can be of service from your own home when you are by yourself and you've got all this free time, create something. Channel your thoughts, your anxieties, your worries, your fears, your pain, your doubt into some form of writing or art or cooking or building or whatever it is that lights you up, whatever it is that feels transformative for you. Dancing, even physical expression, can be a form of creation as well, and that'll release hormones that are going to feel good for you too. And so whenever I post a video, for example, or record these videos too, or post a poem, not only is that giving me a chance for self-expression, but it's giving me a chance for connection with the audience. And I like to believe that in a way it is of service to my audience because hopefully it's helping you learn something or feel something. And so we get a lot out of creating and sharing. Now, you can create just for creation's sake. That's going to be amazing and beautiful and wonderful. But I think a lot of times the feeling of the lack of purpose comes from, going back to the original poem at the beginning of this video, having the art, having the creations, but not sharing them. So for me, it was like, I have this potential. I've got like a bunch of things written on my computer, but no one sees them. So what's the point? Does it even matter? The first poem I ever shared at an open mic was called Silent Story. And it was like, a silent story, does it even count? A fallen tree in the forest does not make a sound. And it gets happier, but the point of that is to say sometimes it feels like, you know, we can have all this stuff. And again, I think creating for creating's sake is beautiful, so do that. But at some point, you're going to get the pull to share it. And when you get that pull and you get that feeling, follow it, honor it, because your sharing is of service to the world. And it's going to give you that feeling of a sense of purpose. It's going to give you the feeling that you're fulfilling your potential. And it's going to make you so much happier, because we have to have that sense of purpose, that sense of connection, that sense of belonging to feel happy, truly happy, not just temporary pleasure, but true fulfillment and contentment with life. So all of this is to say, if you're feeling, or in those moments when it might creep up and you start feeling like a big waste of space, which happens to me sometimes, then what I encourage you to do is either establish connection with someone or create something, or both. Create it and share it, establish the connection. I would love to hear from you what you think your purpose is. What is your soul called to do in this world? And I don't think that has to be something so specific as like, I'm made to write poems. Because, for me personally, that is part of my purpose, but I don't think my purpose is poetry. I think my purpose is helping people feel things. That's part of my purpose. So when you're thinking about your own purpose, it's not necessarily one action or one thing. It's a larger picture of who you are and who you want to be. And if you struggle with the relationship piece, then you might want to check out my video on 3 keys to beat social anxiety, because that'll help you relate and connect and talk to other people. And of course, check out my online course, Show Up Shores, Secrets to Embody Confidence for a Lifetime, which will help you get comfortable reaching out to people, talking to strangers, and being of service more often than not. And you can find the link for that in the video description. So comment on what you feel your purpose is. Comment on anything that you took away from this video, and share this with someone who you feel could benefit. Thank you so much for watching.